guys, we are back, and I want you to follow along with me here, and I want you to picture this. So it's a beautiful afternoon, and you're out for a fun afternoon off-roading, and one of your buddies says, hey, let's check out those sand dunes over there. And you're thinking to yourself, hey, sweet, I got a four-wheel drive. I can handle this all day long. So you hit the sand dunes with your vehicle and you quickly come to a stop. Now you're stuck in sand and your wheels are spinning. My friend, you're now close to bottoming out. So what do you do? Or better yet, how could you have prevented this? Now in today's video, we're going to dive into some of the things that you need to know before you go driving on sand. That way you can minimize your chances of getting stuck. Now we'll also talk about some gear that you should have in case you do get stuck. That way you can get yourself out. And really at the end of the day, driving on sand isn't terribly difficult. You just need to be prepared and know what to do ahead of time. And that's what we're gonna do right now. All right, before we get going with this video, if you can do me a big, gigantic, huge favor by hitting that like button down below. If you find some value with this video, by hitting that like button, it really does help with the whole YouTube algorithm. That said, my friend, pull up a seat in. Let's go. Now, I do want to open up this video by saying that you don't need a full-spec Desert Runner to drive on the sand. And don't get me wrong, a Desert Runner is going to be a blast. It would be really cool to have, but it's not a requirement to have a successful day on the beach and the dunes. Just talking about this right now reminds me of back when I went to school, and I went to school in Daytona Beach, Florida. If you've been to Daytona Beach, Florida, you may know that you can drive on the beaches out there. So back then, we were driving on the beach with what we had. If you had a two-wheel drive vehicle, you were out there on a two-wheel drive. If you had a four-wheel drive, you'd be out there having a little bit more fun on a four-wheel drive. But driving on the sand isn't all that difficult. In fact, you can drive on sand in your daily driver SUV with normal all-season tires if you want. Just really have to be prepared and use some common sense. This means that you need to learn how to drive on sand, and it's a little bit different experience than driving on asphalt, that's for sure. Now this also means that having the right gear and knowing how to use that gear to get unstuck if the need arises. So let's learn how to do just that. Now, the most basic thing that you can do to improve your ability to drive on sand is to air down your tires. Now, how far you air down your tires really depend upon the specific tires that you have as well as the vehicle you have in the specific sandy terrain. But a good rule of thumb is to shoot anywhere between 12 and 20 PSI. Now, in a lot of the footage that you're going to be watching here from a Glamis trip from last year, my tires were aired down to 14 PSI. Now, by airing down the tires, what's happening here is you increase the surface area of the tire, which improves the grip, which gives your vehicle better traction when you're driving on sand. By improving grip and traction, obviously, you give yourself the better chance of not getting bogged down in the sand. Now, just be aware that when your tires are aired down, you need to take nice, gentle, slow turns. Now, if you turn too sharply or too quickly with aired down tires, the tires can easily roll off the rims, and that's definitely not a situation that you want to be in. I have something fun for here. You want to hear I lost $15 worth of bets with my wife and then accidentally won $5? So about a mile away from where I live, there's a park, and within that park, there's a volleyball court that's full of sand. Now, for 3 days straight, I made a $5 bet with my wife that I can ride my mountain bike all the way through it, and I never did. I made it, best case scenario, halfway. The fourth day we're heading back over there, and on the way over there I start realizing, man, this is not good. My back tire was running out of air. Actually, it was near flat. Turns out I had a thorn inside the wheel. Well, anyways, or in the tire rather. But getting there, I of course made another $5 bet, and it was delayed thought that as soon as I made it through, what had happened. Because the tire was so flat, I was able to make it through the entire volleyball court. I was able to turn around with less momentum and make it all the way back. Actually, I went back and forth a couple times. So this is just testament. When you air down your tires, you're increasing that footprint. It doesn't matter whether you're on a bicycle, a car, a four-wheel drive. Once you air down properly, you're going to increase your odds of getting through. And because I had less momentum, I wasn't spinning, I gave the wheels enough traction that allowed me to get through and win a $5 bet. Cha-ching! Now when driving on sand, you want to maintain a steady speed to minimize the chance that your vehicle is going to get stuck. Now this doesn't mean that you should be blasting across the dunes at full speed. Instead, simply you need to maintain a forward momentum and be under control. And this means using gravity to help you descend hills and using the gas pedal to help you continue your momentum going up the hills. Now, there is a caveat with this though. When you're driving up a dune and you approach the rim, you do not want to blindly power up and over the rim. There's a couple reasons for this. First, if you have too much speed and you go up the hill, your wheels are going to begin to spin, which is a great way to get stuck. Second, you don't want too much speed as you approach the hill because there could be a huge drop on the other side. Man, if you want some entertainment, jump over on YouTube and type in, sand dunes jump fails, and you're going to have no shortage of Darwin recipients that just blindly launch their vehicles up and over these sand dunes. Now, instead, the best practice is to have a spotter check out what's on the other side of the dune. That way, you know what to expect when you hit the crest. Then when you approach the crest, back up the power so you have enough momentum to make it over, but not too much that your front tires leave the ground. Now, if your front wheels do leave the ground, you run the risk of damaging not only the front of your vehicle, your suspension, the frame when your vehicle comes back down to the ground again. So really, unless you have a fully built, kind of desert runner with an elaborate suspension, really be careful when you hit the top of these peaks. So if you try to go up a hill or a dune and you get stuck, it's best practice to back right down the same path that you came. Not only will the sand behind you be compacted from the tire tracks, which is going to help with traction, but backing down straight also minimizes your chance that your vehicle is going to flip over. Now, the last thing that you want to do is try to circle around on an incline in an effort to get unstuck or an effort to descend the hill going down nose first. Now, doing so all but assures that your vehicle will roll over all the way to the bottom of the hill. So be smart, simply back down straight. It's the easiest and safest method. Now, when you're cruising down the beach in a flat sand, using 4H is really a great option. But when you get into softer sand and much more varied terrain rather, it might be a good idea to drop your vehicle into 4 low. Now, 4 low also gives you a much better throttle control, limits the wheel spin, and limits your speed. Now, this also enables you to be smoother on the gas, which will help you avoid getting stuck in softer sand. Now, during this particular Glamis trip, I was pretty much at 4 high the entire time, and I had really no problems with this. Now, additionally, if your vehicle has traction control, you're going to want to shut that off while you're in the sand. Now, the point of traction control is to send power to the wheel that has the grip. But when you're driving on sand, you want power to go to all the wheels to keep your momentum up. Now, it's a good rule of thumb to take it easy on the gas, the brake, and steering when you're on the sand. Now, too much gas leads to wheel spin, which can dig yourself or dig your wheels into the sand. And if you find that your wheels are starting to spin, take your foot off the gas immediately. And I know, this seems counterintuitive to many people because you want to press on the gas to build speed. But the problem is that if your wheels are already spinning more gas will only make the wheels spin at a greater rate and, hence dig yourself a big ass hole in the ground. Now, when it comes to braking, pressing too hard on the brakes can cause your rig to dig into the sand during a sudden stop. So the same principle really applies here. Take it easy on the brakes and press gently to come to a stop without digging into the sand. And as I mentioned before, quick movements or sharp turns can cause the rubber to roll right off the wheel, so avoid sharp turns and sudden turns to keep your tires on your wheels. So the name of the game is take it easy. So it's that time of the day where you want to take a little bit of a break. And when you're ready to stop and take in the view, try to find a spot where you can park where the vehicle's facing downhill. Doing so puts you at an immediate advantage when it's ready to get underway again. With gravity on the side, you can simply put your vehicle in gear and ease onto the gas, and gravity is going to do all the legwork for you. And another reason is so others don't accidentally hit you as they're coming over the dune. And yeah, not everybody's gonna be using a spotter, so this just helps protect you and keeps you out of some unwanted situations. Now, having a successful day off-roading on sand obviously requires a lot of skill and technique on your part as being the driver, but you also need to have the right gear with you to get the job done. And here's a quick list of some must-have gear for driving on sand. You want to have a tire inflator and a deflator. You want traction boards. You want multiple tow straps and shackles. A good shovel. Now, I like to use the Crazy Beaver shovel. Next is a sand flag, and you want to check with your local regulations for required height, color, and placement on the flag on the vehicle itself. And next is a radio, and you may be thinking to yourself, well, Alex, hey, I got a cell phone. Why do I need a radio? Well, a radio is really good for keeping in contact with your buddies and calling for help if you need be. And I'll use it around where I'm at. You know, a lot of the footage that you've been watching here, as I mentioned, is from Glamis, or even some places over here Death Valley. You do not get cell reception out there. So again, having a CB or a GMRS radio or a ham radio is going to be a great way to keep yourself, again, in contact with those that you need to in case of emergency arrives. Mechanical tool set, then really you should have a set of tools with you anyways, just in case you need to fix something. Also have good lighting. Now in my rig, I have KC lights all the way around. On the front, I have the KC Gravity Pro 6 light bar. And for the most part, when I'm off-roading, I usually have these lights on even during daylight anyway. That just gives more people the opportunity to be able to see for obvious reasons. And obviously when it gets dark, these things are bright as hell. And the last one on here, and this is one that I hate to say I'm guilty of dropping the ball on a couple times as well. You want to bring plenty of gas. Now, driving on sand, I can tell you right now, gets you terrible gas mileage. And so if you have some Rotopacks or some fuel containers, make sure you bring some extra gas. Now, it's important to have these items for self-rescue, but it's also important that if you're stuck and someone comes to your aid, that you use your stuff. After all, you don't want to break somebody else's tow strap when they've come to your aid. Now, in addition to this gear, you want to be able to have survival essentials as well. So bring plenty of food and water, have a first aid kit, warm clothing regardless of what time of the year it is, because deserts can have some pretty wide temperature gaps there. Space blanket, have a sleeping bag, a small propane stove, fire making material, or heck, have both. Have a headlamp, flashlight, lantern, or again, all three. Basically, make sure you have what you need to survive a day or two if you experience a breakdown or you get hopelessly stuck. Now, when you're off-roading, it's just good practice to have a buddy with you. If one of you gets stuck, you have somebody there to help you get unstuck. If there's a problem with a vehicle, you've got somebody there to help you diagnose and fix the problem. And of course, if there's an injury, having a buddy with you can be an absolute lifeline to safety. And of course, if there's an injury, having a buddy means having a lifeline to safety if somebody gets hurt. Now, even if you go with a friend, you should always tell somebody where you're going to be going, what you're going to be doing, who you're going to be with, how you're going to be getting there, and how you're going to get back, or when you're going to get back rather. This ensures that if you and your buddy encounter a problem, that a third party will know when to alert the authorities. Besides, going with a buddy or two is just way more fun. Now, as I mentioned a few times here, the footage that you've been watching here is from Glamis, and so this was September last year, 2020. So I was meeting up with a couple people from Turtleback Trailers. One of them happens to be Ken, the owner, and turns out he's a photographer as well. So Glamis was a lot of fun. So this was really one of the first times that I went to photograph sand dunes, and I walked away with not only some really cool experience, but also got some really cool slick shots as well. And we saw some really interesting stuff. So we were on the east side of where most people go for the dunes, and we had 3 Turtleback trailers. Everybody had an expedition trailer around a big circle. We had a campfire, a lot of good food, had some good stories around the fire. We saw some really slick, so they have military, there was an air station around there someplace, and so we saw a lot of low-hanging helicopters. So we're heading back to camp from Osborne Lookout, and as we're driving down, and there's a military helicopter that's maybe 50 feet above our head, and it's swooping right over on a bank looking down. It was one of the coolest things. But Glamis trip, this was a lot of fun. I've never been to Glamis, and so we did a lot of exploring. Ken also does a lot of time lapse, and so we reconned the spot way out into the dunes, found a really cool spot, which actually is where I took this photo right here. In this particular photo, I love how you have all these mountains coming into the center, these different layers of lighting. Now granted, during that time there was some fires going on, so there's a little bit of haze in the sky, but still it turned out to be a fantastic shot. It was a great time, and man, I am looking forward to heading out there again. Now, one thing I do want to point out, if you want to go out from a photography standpoint out to Glamis, I know we're getting off topic a little bit here. As I understand from the park ranger out there, September through April is the busiest time frame. So if you want to avoid that, get there beforehand. Now, just know the temperatures are a lot warmer during that time frame. And the best part about the Glamis trip is, as we're sitting around the campfire at night, when all the noise cuts down, it is so darn quiet out there. Now, one other point that I'm going to bring up here is, if you're going to be camping out on the dunes, think about shade or getting out from underneath the sun without being in a tent where it might be an oven and so forth. We had 3 Turtleback Expedition trailers, and each of them had sizable awnings that kind of opened up, and we were able to find refuge underneath that, away from the sun. But bring plenty of sunblock. Again, whether it's winter or summer, the sun can be out in these dunes can be absolutely brutal. At the end of the day, having fun while driving in the sand is all about being prepared and being smart. Having the right gear with you and having a buddy with you, taking it easy on the throttle and on the brake, and know the lay of the land to the best of your abilities. Now, if you plan ahead and prepare, you'll be less likely to have any problems on the sand and more likely to have a killer trip. Now, some of the sand dunes, for example, can be an absolute madhouse, and unfortunately, many Darwin Awards are getting issued every single year. Now, going out there and practicing what you've learned here can keep you safe and the people around you. Now, before I sign off, I do want to review our current giveaway, which actually ended last Friday. So this week's Photography Talk episode, we're going to announce the winners, and we're also going to let you know what the next giveaway is. All right, guys, well, this was a lot of fun putting this video together. The footage that you've been watching here, boy, this is from last September. I mentioned this earlier on, September 2020. This video has been in the process of, I wanted to make this video for a very long time. It's kind of turned into a kind of a private joke with a buddy and I, but I'm thrilled to finally get this video out there and share the Glamis experience. This was truly a really amazing trip. And so I'm finding, what's funny is, as I'm watching this video, as I'm putting this video together and some of the content together, I look at my Jeep. In this video, it had 1,500 miles on it, and I look at a lot of the modifications. None of my lights were on it. I had the Diamondback cover on the back that was just put on there. Things look a lot different than what it does right now. But anyways, I hope this video is helpful. I hope you enjoyed this video. And of course, if you did, do me a favor, hit that like button down below. If you're currently not subscribed to the channel, we would love to have you part of the channel. And hey, while you're at it, might as well kick that bell so therefore you're notified each time that we come out with a video just like this one. That said, my friends, I'm going to be jumping out of my studio, so you get out there, stay healthy, and find your adventures.